are super, super rare. I've only ever seen 2.
Crabs are strange creatures, but of the estimated 405 million crabs in the Chesapeake Bay last year, there are bound to be a few that are even stranger than strange. Today we sit down with Captain CJ as he talks about the stranger crabs he's caught over his career.
This crab is one I've seen a few of over the years. It's kind of like a partial albino, so it ends up being a light blue. This crab was an old one. You can see it's got some shell rot on it. It's really dark black looking. He's been hiding for a long time, and 2 nice claws, but he's got that light bluish color to him. This one here is an albino, white-clawed albino. I tend to see a lot of these further up the bay, up above Bakken and further north. It seems like, for whatever reason, there's more of these white-clawed and white-legged and stuffed crabs. This one here had a really, completely solid white claw. It was a true albino claw. Here's a speckled crab. It's partial, so it's white like an albino, but it's also some colors like a regular crab too. These are pretty cool. I've only caught a couple of these. They're definitely not as common. Here's a speckled or partial albino. She's actually white, not like a lighter color. She has some true white in her. This one was a soft crab I shed. It had the whole claw, some of the legs, patches underneath of it were completely white, a true albino, and then other parts were regular colored. It was like parts of it were albino. It was like on the lines of the shell and stuff. That one was pretty wild. I never really seen much of that. This was undersized, but I thought it had a neat shell. It's almost equal on both sides, so that white looks like it's not just a random pattern. I'd never seen one like that before. There's a picture of 2 females, one partial albino and one regular. Kind of, you can really get a chance to see the color difference, how different they are. A little bit lighter one, still has some blue in them, but almost an albino. That one was pretty neat. I've never caught a completely white male. A lot of times I'll throw these back just so somebody else gets a cool chance to catch them. They're definitely not very common. This is probably my favorite crab of all time. Looks like he's about 110 years old, and I think he's the true definition of tenacity. He had, probably as much hair growing on him as he weighed. You can see he's pretty beat up, missing his claws and legs, but he's still going at it, still kicking along the bottom, and definitely a cool crab. This one gave him a haircut, cleaned him up a little bit, and let him go. Figured he deserved to have the last run of it. Who knows how much longer he lived. Definitely my favorite. This one here actually has more like what we call fuzz growing on it. It was pretty beat up. I guess they either get really old or sick, then they can't take care of themselves as well. They're able to polish that stuff off or scrape that stuff off. I noticed on one of the tags that we had last year, the tag was really scraped up, and I figured it was from probably the crab cleaning itself, rubbing its back. The water's so dirty, so much growth in it, and gotta be a daily process to keep your shell clean. This one here, he's got one leg on one side and a claw. You don't have enough appendages to kind of clean himself off or to do anything, so he's starting to get kind of cruddy looking, but he's still alive, must be able to feed. Somehow got into a crab pot. This one here is another real nasty one. It's got a bunch of hair growing on it, and this one's got more legs and stuff, probably just, I don't know, maybe real super old or sick. Pretty cool crab here that came up in the pots. It's all covered in barnacles. I don't know if it's sick or just couldn't keep itself clean or what, but maybe it came from way down south. I don't know, might have moved up the bay. Got a bad set on them. She'll lose all them when she sheds. She's starting to get a little color in her, so she should shed and all them barnacles will go away. Yeah, I don't often see many crabs with barnacles. Last year was a tremendous barnacle set. The water was super salty. I even had barnacles growing in my soft crab tanks, which I've never seen that before. Here we got another one of them sick crabs. We call them white meat crabs. We call them cotton crabs too. See how white it is in here? He's obviously not moving around a whole lot. He's got all this growth on him where it's like completely covering him. The meat on that crab, it's like it's already been cooked. See how white it is? These cotton crabs, we see maybe a few dozen over the season if you're looking for them. A lot of them just look like a regular crab. You don't, if you're not really looking for them, you won't even notice them. You'll see them sometimes in the bottoms of the pods. It says the microsporin Amazon michalis causes severe muscle lysis that results in a condition known as cotton crab. The meat infected is cottony in texture and poorly flavored. The parasite can be transmitted via cannibalism, and since as much as 25% of a blue crab's diet is other blue crabs, it's surprising the parasite is only found at low prevalence. You can see crabs definitely eat each other a lot.
So you don't throw those back in the water to eat it?
The way that parasite keeps going is by weakening the crab, and then other crabs eat that crab, and then they get sick from eating that crab. That's how the life cycle continues. A lot of times when you see them, they're undersized crabs that get the sickness. Those undersized crabs, a lot of people throw over. It's just perpetuating that cycle. So we try to get them out of the ecosystem so that the disease stops.
This one could have been gotten wedged on along something when it was shedding, so the shell's kind of like smashed up on that left side there. Sometimes their shell kind of hangs up when they're shedding. Low oxygen makes the shell kind of twisted when it comes out, and the crab gets itself out finally, and the shell stays mangled like that. This one we saw a lot of this year, where the sides of the shells are chewed off. I'm assuming when the crab is soft, another crab comes up and just eats the side of it off. Crab gets hard to the point it can get away from the other crab while it's eating it and ends up doing fine. Usually they're healthy crabs. This one's looks in perfect shape, and his gills are starting to get dark. He's hard enough to where he's moving along. Here's another one that looks like it got chewed up, maybe fish or other crabs chewing on it.
Lost his legs and his part of his fin there, but the blood coagulates and all. They make like a quasi shell, I guess. So he'll have 3 new legs, and then the shell, when he sheds, it'll look the same. It'll still be deformed a little bit. Another half a crab. Ooh, look at that. His you can see his lungs working. How cool is that? Another crazy half a crab there. See his gills moving and all. It's crazy.
So the devil crabs, usually from low oxygen, from what I've seen, I've had them shed like that, lose power, and they'll come out hung up. They still get out, but their shell kind of gets sticky somehow, or there's not enough oxygen to allow the shell to come out right or something. I'm not sure truly how the mechanism works. That's actually a really good example there, this other one here. That's really, really pointed up.
That's what we call a devil crab. Crab's shell gets hung up, and its shell, when it's shedding, I see them sometimes when I'm shedding crabs. If I lose power or something and get low oxygen in the tank, they'll do the same thing.
This one here has 2 points. We'll see crabs with multiple points, kind of like palmated, where they're all spread out like a moose's horn. This one here was kind of wild. It had 2 actual points on it. Just definitely see a lot of claws, different types of claws. This one I kind of thought looked like a heart almost. Some of them get round. I'm not sure what causes that. I guess somehow in the shedding process. When that crab sheds again, it'll come out just like that. Here's one with an extra, or the points kind of push down. This one was wild. I actually shed this crab, almost like a claw or something kind of growing out of his face. It was coming out of like the mouth part that opens and closes. It was more like a leg or something. It was pretty wild, some kind of different deformity or something. Here's another one that's kind of like a round claw. Somehow it got twisted into shape that way. Here's another one. I think this one actually had barnacles and stuff growing on it. It was pretty wild, nasty looking. Oh, this one kind of reminded me of like a deer's horn, where it's got almost like a little kicker on the side, like a split kicker or something. It's pretty cool. This one's kind of split. I mean, you can see it's really got 2 actual points as that dark color, and there's 2 little dark spots there. This one actually has, almost looks like 3 claws coming out. This one somehow got twisted up in the shedding process, so his claw somehow got shoved underneath of his shell, and then when he hardened up, it was stuck there, and his claw still worked fine. You can pinch it with it. It was working, but somehow it got twisted in there and hung up. Here's one where the leg got hung up underneath as crab shed. as it was pulling out, its leg got laid up underneath of its corner of its shell, and it got stuck in there. And I don't know how they can eat like that, or why they don't actually eat their leg too. I don't know. It's weird, but they still surviving, still eating and moving along.
There you got a crab with a leg growing out of his face. Sometimes when they shed, that leg gets hung up underneath, and then they go. Comes out of their mouth. Kind of crazy looking. It's missing on this side here. It's like tucked up underneath.
These are super, super rare. I've only ever seen 2. This one I think was given to me by somebody else. This is actually a mature female that was a peeler and was in the process of shedding its shell, and it actually died part of the way coming out. I've never been able to shed one. Of the 2 that I had, I wasn't able to shed either one. They got close to coming out and then died. I was talking to scientists, and they said that they think mature females that go back to shed are females that weren't bred. So for some reason they weren't able to hook up with a male, never got any sperm to fertilize their eggs. So they have to shed again in order to be able to mate, because the females mate when they're soft. So I guess there's just a slight chance that they don't get impregnated. Like I said, these are super, super rare to see a mature female shedding. Typically the mature females, they're done shedding, they never shed again. It's a very, very, very rare.
Yeah, it's definitely lively. Yeah, and you can see this claw is bigger than this one. And then this one has more of the red as opposed to the blue down its claw. But just that apron, that textbook apron. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's actually the same sort of shape.
Yeah, that's a 1 in hundreds of thousands, hundreds of millions probably. Millions, many millions. So that's cool. Yeah, I thought
This is one of my all-time favorites. It's a true albino female. Really the only one I've ever seen or know of anywhere. I've seen some albino males on computer, different places, but have never seen an albino female anywhere. So to me, this is probably the rarest of everything that I've caught. It's like 1 in 10 trillion probably. I donated the crab to the lab up in Baltimore, and she had it in her tanks for a while, but it didn't survive, unfortunately. So, but that is definitely cool crab for sure. Probably take me 40 more years to catch another one like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed all the different crab oddities, shells, formations. I'm sure we'll see a bunch this season coming. Who knows what you catch.